All right, y'all. So basically, oh man, I don't know if the title's still on there, but anyway, what I'm discussing is how women still don't understand or even accept the fact that they're at war, right? And I say that because, first of all, I always talk about the war within. So, but what prompted me to talk about this is, I don't know if you guys remember, it was like a while ago. There was this WhatsApp uh, message thing, I guess, that was going around. It was like 70,000 men, and they were talking about different ways to basically SA women and girls. And so, couple that with recently where this guy was on this podcast, y'all probably saw it, where he was talking about what a lot of men, what happens with a lot of men, or a lot of people don't know, is that when a man is holding his infant, he gets aroused, right? So I started thinking, we have, when I say that we're at war, and when I talk about the war within, I talk about the war within for women because they really don't truly understand the world around them. And you would think that with all of the information, everything that we've had, our experiences, things that we've seen, things that we've been exposed to, all of these things, you would think that women, would still have an understanding of the world around them. But there's still, so many of them are still caught up in that fairy tale, Disney, whatever. Right. And because in the comment section of that podcast, the women were in the comment section. Some of them were laughing like they thought it was a joke. And I was just like, okay, men show y'all time and time again how they are, how they think, right? What they think of you, how they feel about you, the children, all of that. They show you this all the time. And y'all still don't want to accept what you're seeing. Now, my disclaimer. I'm not saying that every single man walking the earth is some sort of perverted pedophile abuser, right? But we have to understand how the male brain works. And I talk about this all the time, how we all have like a default programming. So the male has a default programming because he already comes here with natural impediments. He has to work extra hard, right, to overcome that default programming, to be able to fulfill the void of those natural impediments that he does have. But instead of doing that, they just look to us to do it, right? They siphon off of the feminine energy and it's a natural thing for them. This is what a lot of people don't understand. It's natural for men to do that because they already have those impediments. They have to really seriously be serious about doing the work on themselves, because if they don't, they're just going to pull it from us, right? And so the default programming is basically, I always say that humans are animals first, right? We have the same characteristics. I mean, animals in the wild. What is the thing that animals is self-preservation? They have to make sure they have to go hunt for food. They have, it's those basic things that we all have to do as humans as well. It falls underneath that low tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I got into last week. But you have to override that. That is the default programming that you have to override. So when we're looking at podcasts, for that example, and that guy was saying that, it made me think of the animal kingdom and what takes place in the animal kingdom. Animals in the animal kingdom, that is a thing where I think of lions, I think is one, where they actually get aroused by their young. Right? And so when we're looking at it as animals, we think, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay, those are animals. Well, humans are animals and humans do the same thing. So this is not excusing the behavior, but what I'm saying is we have to rise above our default programming. And so in order to do that, what do you have to do? You have to do the inner work. You have to dive deep. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to go and try to understand the core essence of who you are. You have to start there. So whatever sort of perversion and whatever it is you have going on inside of you, you have to address that instead of outsourcing it to, sexual deviant behavior or whatever it is, all the weird shit that people do instead of doing the work on themselves, right? So when I talk about the war within, that has to do with not knowing who you are outside of the centuries of conditioning, right? And so when I'm talking about women doing the work within, that is one of the things that they need to do is to address that default programming. I always call it too. I was talking to I had a client today. I was talking about the inner pick me that we all have as women. See, when we think pick me, we're only thinking about men. No, that inner pick me she's always showing up, whether it's about a man, whether it's about your friends, your family, your coworker, social media. It's like, look at me, right? That's that inner pick me. And so my client today said, she said the inner pick me needs to be seen. I was laughing, but I was like, you're right. She needs to be seen. And so it's like, you have to get a hold of that. And that is a part of the work that we do. Like, you have to get down into the core of who you are. You got to address that inner pick me, because if you don't shut her up, she running the show. So that war within, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about addressing the core, not the core, addressing the programming and the conditioning that we're given as little girls, because it starts as little girls. And so when we don't address those things, and we're only thing that we're doing is responding to the environment around us, and we're responding to what people are giving us. Okay, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to show up like that, don't say this, talk this way, be this way. These are all of the things that we're given so we can find ourselves in these roles that was created for us. So we're given this role before we even know who we are. And so that becomes where I talk about the shadow, and I talk about the core essence of who you are and how you end up taking her and placing her on the shelf. So that way you can go out and perform and do all these things. Everything is performative, right? And so when we talk about the inner war, that is you addressing that. Like, why do I have the beliefs that I have? Why do I, think that men are supposed to be this particular way? Or why do I think as a woman, I'm supposed to be a particular way? I'm supposed to sound this way. I'm supposed to talk this way. I have to be nice. I have to always be open and inviting and all of these things. Like, why am I operating like this? And as little girls, our boundaries are violated, when we're very young. Like, one of the ways our boundaries are violated as little girls is we're being forced to go, show some type of affection for our male relatives. Like, I used to say, excuse me, I had already had it in my head when I was pregnant with my daughter. I was like, I'm not going to force her to hug her uncles, right? Because I knew how I felt, 5, 6 years old. And it's like, go hug your uncle, girl. And this is this grown man. And if it always used to feel weird to me. I never knew what that feeling was until I got older. And no, I take that back. Obviously older, once I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was reading this article in Ebony magazine, as a matter of fact, Ebony or Essence, one of those. And they were talking about how, as little girls, how our boundaries basically are violated. And one of the ways is how you're told to interact with your older male relatives, your uncles, because you're supposed to show this respect. So the way of showing him respect is going over there and letting him hug you and all that. And you're not comfortable. And especially as a developing young lady, when you're 12, 13 years old and you're developing and you're going through all these changes, it feels weird to have some grown ass man hugging you. Right. And so I used to always say that I'm not going to push that on my daughter. I'm not going to ever make her feel like she has to do that. And because I remember how I felt, I used to feel so uncomfortable. I did not like doing that. And not to say that my uncles were these pervy dudes. I just wasn't comfortable. And so I was like, if I feel this way, then most girls probably felt this way. Most women, when they were girls, they probably felt this way too. Right. And so that was one of the things that I always, like I said, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was like, I'm not going to subject her to that. If she's not comfortable, then I'm not going to make her do it. And lo and behold, she told me, she's like, well, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. I said, well, then don't worry about it. So that all of this, all of that, like I said, that conditioning and stuff, all of that is hiding in your shadow. And so you get older, you have the programming that you were giving as a little girl, right? You were given that pick me programming, right? And you take that with you everywhere you go. So it shows up in how you interact with, like I said, with your friends, with coworkers. It shows up by way of desperation. I need a man. I'm not complete in my life unless I have a man. Um, once I have a man, I'm still not complete because now I have to have babies. And then if I have one baby, then everybody's like, well, when are you having another one? And then you have another one, like, when are you having another one? And it's just like, it never ends. It's just constant. You're just constantly trying to be this person and this role that you have been given. And it's exhausting. And then that's why I say so many women are burnt out. I think so many women are burnt out because they're constantly running, trying to be all of these things. Right. And the, like I said, just running, trying to be all of these things, being everything that they're not, feeling everyone's emotions, taking everyone's emotions is as their own, not being able to deal with their own, but then being told that they're too emotional, all this stuff. It's like all of these different messages and confusing messages that women are given. And so no wonder we're burnt out. Right? No wonder, like I always say, women have too many tabs open. Women are everywhere. They're all over the place. And I really, really think that it's because of all of these conditioning and roles that we're given. We don't know what to do. So we're just everywhere. I have an interest in this. I like this. I like that. I want to try this. I want to do this over here. But you're not focusing in on that core of who you are. You're doing all of these things. To me, it's sort of like a reaction to, it's like a knee jerk reaction to all of the stuff you're being given. Right. And so you have a hard time finding that one thing and being able to focus on that and master that. Then you go and do the next thing. So that war within has to be addressed. You need to address it as a woman before you can even start getting into these relationships, specifically dealing with men. You have to go to a very dark place when you deal with a man as a woman. Like, you really have to understand that. And it's nothing wrong with being in these relationships. It's just that, like I said, most men aren't going to do the work on themselves. But, you know, as a woman, before you get into these, you got to do that work. You got to face that shadow. You got to address that. And I'm of the thinking that once you do that, you can, attract the man that you desire, not someone that you need, but someone that you desire, right? And he desires you. Relationship is not rooted in need, because need signifies lack. So you do that work on yourself and you attract that same type of man. Or a lot of times, excuse me, y'all, burping. I think it's what I ate earlier. So once you do that, you attract that type of man who also has done that work on himself. Or a lot of times you may end up being by yourself, and it's nothing wrong with that. Like, we have to stop villainizing women because they're single. I always liken the married woman and the single woman. It's like the single woman is the villain and the married woman is the hero. Right? But at the same time, women who are married with children, they sort of get villainized as well, because, you have this thing now where we're calling women who are married with children, oh, they're just pick-me's, they're just pick-me's. So it's like, it's almost like you really can't win as a woman. And because of that, that's why you got to do the work on yourself. So you can just walk in who you are and be in your truth and navigate the world that way. Because if you're waiting for the world to tell you what to do, you'll never win. You'll constantly be, because they're always going to raise the goalposts. So you'll constantly be burnt out. Constantly. You'll never achieve homeostasis because you would just be running, 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 trying to be everything to everybody. And like I said, you'll never reach homeostasis. You'll never be happy. So when I say that women don't understand that they are at war, then, we get into the patriarchal structure, which is a war tactic. And it's so funny to me because people love to get online and say the gender wars are only online. Okay. If the gender wars were only online, then why are we seeing it in other areas of our lives? Right? Because we always think gender war, a lot of times we're only thinking it from a place of violence, but it's not always physical violence. It shows up in different ways. It shows up in, the way you interact with a man or how a man interacts with you. Um, you know, um, the unrealistic expectations, thinking that a woman is supposed to be this way. And if she's not that way, then there's conflict. Or thinking that a man is supposed to be this way. And if he's not showing up like that, then that's a problem. That's conflict. So, and I always like to say, even if we're saying it only takes place online, who's online talking about it? Men and women. So it doesn't just exist online, right? It's a whole structure. The patriarchal structure in and of itself is a war tactic. So when people say that, I'm like, what are you talking about? We're in it. And so the war that is declared on women is, you know, not truly understanding how this thing works. I always say that women are just movable chess pieces. They in a chess game that they don't even know they're playing. And chess game is all about strategy, war strategy. I mean, they use it in the shows all the time, like Game of Thrones and all these other shows. They're always playing chess. So women are pawns in these games that they don't even know that they're playing. And it's so funny to me because when men, because sometimes I will go in a man's space and I just want to hear what they're talking about because I like to know what they're talking about, you know. So I don't say anything or anything like that, but I like to go in there because I like to see how the women are commenting. And these men will be on these podcasts, y'all, and they will be telling the truth about whatever their experience is. And women will be in the comment section. Women will be in the comment section, laughing, um, saying, "Oh, he's just joking. He don't really, he doesn't really mean that." Or, I mean, like, and I just be looking at these comments like, are y'all serious? So a man speaking his truth. And then they'll say, I don't agree. So you don't agree with a man that is telling the truth about how he thinks and how men think. You don't agree with it. It's not about you agreeing with it. And it's like what I see is that when men actually do decide to tell the truth, women think it's a joke or they disagree with it. And it makes me think, like, do y'all not really know the difference between your own personal opinions and this man actually telling you the truth? He's being truthful and you're laughing. You think it's a joke. You disagree with it. So this is why I say that women still don't get and don't understand that they are at war. The patriarchal structure, the nuclear family is a war tactic. It came out of we had the egalitarian system, the agricultural system, the nuclear, and then the industrial revolution, which gave way for the nuclear family. All of these things are war tactics. All of these things are ways to take women out of their sovereign capacity. So the gender war has been going on. It's not new. It's not just online. It's not because of TikTok. It's been going on. And the reason why it's so polarizing and so, what's the word? we'll just go with polarizing right now, is because you have so many women right now that are they actually are waking up to this. And so what happens when you start to wake up to something, you start talking about it, right? You start bringing the truth to it. You start bringing it to light. That causes conflict because people don't want the truth. Humans generally want to be lied to. It's all about perception with them. They really don't want the truth. So, when you have someone telling the truth, like I said before, this is why, hey, Casey, this is why this is why women get mad when men get online and tell the truth about men and how men think. And they think it's a joke. I was watching Ken Billions, and he was basically, he was giving, excuse me, nose is itching. Y'all just like burping from the food, and now my nose is itching. Too much going on. So anyway, he was giving so much game in this video, and the only thing that the women in the comment section, a lot of them could come up with, was they was trying to figure out his zodiac sign. And I was just like, y'all really, like, this is really the kind of time y'all be on. Like, this man is giving y'all game, and all you come up with is trying to figure out what his zodiac sign is. I thought that was wild. And so when you tell them that they are at war, I don't think they really understand that. I really don't think women get this. Like, the centuries of conditioning in it, that in and of itself is a war tactic. Think about it. You're telling this person what they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to show up, what they're supposed to be doing, what their role is. You don't think that's a war tactic? Isn't this about psychological warfare? Isn't psychological warfare all about manipulation and getting the person to be what you want them to be so you can further your own agenda? Isn't that what that is? Because see, when we say war, we conjure up the images of physical violence, of weaponry and guns and all that stuff. So that's what we're thinking. But it shows up by manipulation, psychological manipulation, dark psychology, all of these things. So that's the war. So in order for you to be able to combat that, you got to do the inner work on yourself. You got to deal with that war within, because that's the biggest one, is the one within. And then, we direct it outwardly because we're not doing the work that we need to do on ourselves. Right. So, and just like everything is, you hear people say all the time, it's a battle for your mind, right? And when we think about women, the feminine, our minds, either, the soft life girlies, they love to talk about how we're the receivers, and we are, right? And so by us being the receivers, we're able to take everything in, right? That's used against us as well, because most women don't even understand themselves. They don't even understand how their own mind works. And so they're just taking all of this in and taking it in and taking it in. And then once you take all the all the information in and you have no filtering process, then now this is how you're going to show up. You're showing up based on all of these things that you've been taking in. And you haven't, like I said, there's no filtering process. You're not filtering out what needs to be there, right? You don't vet the information that you're receiving. You're just taking everything in, and then you start to navigate within that. And this is what women are doing. This is why a man could literally sit there in a woman's face and tell her, I don't want to be with you no more. I got 2 chicks across town, and and I got 3 children with them. I got 3 baby mamas. He could sit up there and he could not only tell her that, he can literally show her pictures on his phone of him and the baby mamas and all the kids. And the woman will still be like, "Oh, you lying. That ain't real. You did it." This is what women do, right? Oh, well, don't bring that bitch over here. Blah, blah, blah. This is what they do. And it's like, this man just told you, right? He just showed you. And you're still like, you just, I don't know. It's like you don't want to believe what you're seeing. Like you're looking at it and you still don't believe it. You still want to make excuses. You still want to try to come up with some kind of way to keep this going instead of just accepting the truth of what this man just told you and what he showed you. Accepting it and then moving accordingly, which would be to leave. But no, she's going to make excuses. She's going to try and come up with a way to make it like it's not real. That's fake. That's not a real picture or whatever it is she has to tell herself, right? Just so she can keep that man. That is conflict. That is war, right? So the war the war within is where it all starts, right? That part of you that you placed on the shelf, the shadow, right? That's where that is. I was watching, good example, I was watching Charmed. Okay, so not the first Charm, but the reboot. And they got the youngest sister acting just like Phoebe to a degree, right? Falls in love with a demon, didn't know he was a demon. Demon tried to come and take her powers. They fell in love. She was trying to get him to get rid of his demon half. I mean, it was the same story. Then she was getting ready to marry him and this like weird, like demon ballroom marriage thing or whatever, right? Same thing Phoebe did in the first one. And so I'm watching this. I'm like, look at little Phoebe, right? She's doing the same exact thing. Oh, we're being a Phoebe. So, but the funny thing was, they showed her sister showed her the evidence of like this dude, yeah, he's saying he love you, but this is what he's doing. Instead of her looking at that and seeing showing proof in front of her, like camera footage of what the dude is like literally stuff coming out of his mouth saying, yeah, he did this and he did that. She gets mad at her sister. How could you do that? How could you come here and ruin my wedding? And then she kicks her sister out the wedding. So I said, okay, so not only is she not believing what she's seeing, she's making excuses, but she throws her sister under the bus for this dude. That's war, inner war. The war with your inner pick me or whatever, right? So she's seeing the evidence right in her face and she still wants to marry this dude. And she throws her sister, kicks her sister out the wedding. It's just like this whole thing. And I'm just like, wow. But the reason why they can write for this is because this is how women behave. This is not just on TV. This is how women behave. I'm sure you guys probably got friends or relatives or whoever have that you've seen behave in this manner. I know that I have. I've behaved in this manner when I was very young, right? Not wanting to see things for what they are because I wanted to continue on with whatever it is I was doing. I did that. We're all guilty of that. But we're doing, when we're young because we're learning, right? But some women, they never come out of that. They continue on with that behavior well into their 30s, 40s, 50s, or whatever, because they never did the work. And even when men are showing you what they're doing and who they are and what they are, that's actually supposed to be a catalyst for you as the woman to do that work on yourself. He's there to shake things up, right? When I say that women outsource their shadow to men because they want to act that out instead of dealing with it. But that man being toxic or whatever it is he's doing, that's actually the catalyst for you, ma'am, to go do the work on yourself. That's the catalyst for you to stop everything you're doing and to go within. That's the catalyst for you to take back your power, as women are saying a lot, right? But instead of doing that, women want to continue on with the fantasy, right? They want to make excuses and they just want to keep doing it. And I've said time and time again, myself and many other women creators, we've said time and time again that women, if they're not the creators, they are the co-creators of patriarchy. And a lot of women can't wrap their head around that. But I say time and time again, men only do what women allow, right? You stay in that abusive relationship. You're staying there because you want to. You're not staying there because you can't leave. You can't leave. Everything is a choice. You're staying there because you want to. You want to be there, right? If you really, really wanted to leave, if you don't leave right away, you're making plans to leave. Like that, what was that movie? Sleeping with the Enemy with Jennifer. Julia Roberts. That was a good one. She was in when we first saw the movie when it was coming on, we saw her enduring this abuse. But then later on, we were seeing how she was preparing for her escape, right? So she was stacking her money because she was preparing for her escape. She took swimming lessons because she knew they had beachfront property. So she knew she was going to have to swim her ass somewhere to get away from him. So, right? So she was doing that. She was preparing for her escape. And then she finally got the courage to leave, right? A lot of women aren't doing that. They're just going to stay. And it's one thing, like I said, to be able to just say, you know what, I'm out, and you just leave. It's another thing that if you're actually preparing to escape, right? But other than that, it's like when they just stay. They just stay. And I say because they want to. You don't have to. Everything is a choice. So if you're staying, it's a choice. I had an aunt who she was in an abusive marriage for a very, very, very long time. And of course, you don't want to see anybody that you love going through that, right? But as I started doing this work and really started having a better understanding of women and why women can endure so much and, why they can and why they do, then I started to realize that she didn't leave. She didn't leave because she was scared. She didn't leave because she just didn't want to leave. She would like run away, like leave and come to her family and stay for. I remember one time she came and she stayed for like months. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I hope she doesn't go back to him. I hope she doesn't go back. And she ended up going back. So, yes, there are things in a woman's mind where it's like, well, if I leave, he's going to do this to my children. I get that. Right. So, but it's like, you either going to leave and take your children with you, or you're going to stay and just endure and hopefully the motherfucker don't kill you. Right. Or you're going to plan your escape. Right. And so, but I remember my aunt, she never left. She never actually left him. And I remember she died of cancer. And I always say that he basically sucked the life out of her. Right. But she allowed it. And see, and when I say stuff like that, the women in my family, they're like, oh, no, 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 no. You can't say that about her. But, and it's not taking anything away from my aunt. She was like this beautiful spirit, but she stayed because she wanted to. And I'm sure it was the same reasons why a lot of women stay. Oh, it's because of the children, blah, blah, blah. But what about when the children get older? Right? That's another thing. Like, you staying past when they get older, when they're out of the house and you're still there. Like, I even get saying you're going to stay until your child is 18 and then you're leaving. I get that too. But a lot of times they don't. They just stay. And that's what she did. She stayed. And I never understood that. It was always sort of like, why would you do that? Why would you stay? Like, your kids are grown and out of the house. They're married. You got grandkids. Why are you still here? So I came to the realization that she just didn't want to leave. And women can endure a lot. Women can endure a lot of physical pain and mental and emotional pain. I mean, think about it. We already know the studies that a woman's high tolerance for pain is much higher than a man because we give birth. So women can take a lot. They can actually take all them hits from that abuse. And this is obviously not saying anything, excusing behavior or anything like that, but they can take it because we have that oxytocin. Oxytocin is a pain inhibitor. Women can take a lot of shit. This is why they do. Men know this about us. They know that they can do these things and we'll just stay and we'll just take it because it's something in us that we can just take it. Not saying we should, but obviously we can take it because why would you stay? I I mean, we can get into the other reasons of like the fear that he's going to come back and kill me. He's going to kill my kid. I get all that. But I mean, there's a chance he's going to kill you anyway. You stand with him. So, I mean, it's really just about the choice the choice you want to make, right? You stay, go get you a pew pew. So when he do try to come, right? Or you just stay and you just take it and hopefully, like I said, hopefully motherfucker won't kill you, right? I mean, those are your choices. I'm looking for my charger. So yeah, that's a strong that war, that inner war, that's that's where it all starts. You gotta do that as a woman. So yeah, I just thought that, once I realized, like I said, after doing this work, and I realized that she never left because she didn't want to leave. And I remember we were just talking about this recently. Say maybe a few weeks ago, I was talking to my sister about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I love my auntie, but why did she stay? What was it that made her stay?" And I was like, "Women have the tolerance of abuse. They have a very high tolerance for abuse." And she was like, "Oh, no, no, no. She stayed because of blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I get that, but she has a high tolerance for abuse. Women do. Men know this. They know how desperate women are for being in these relationships. They know that women will do anything to be in a relationship. They know that women will allow their children to be violated just so they can have a man. Men know this about women. This is why when women be trying to deny it, it's like, no, they know this about y'all. Y'all do it all the time. I mean, how many stories do we have to hear about women allowing other men to come in their house and violate their children? I mean, you hear about it too much. It's too common. Like, to this day, I'm thankful that my mom did not allow that. I was raised by a single mom. She did not allow men in the house. The only man who could come over was my father. And they had a good relationship. There was no violence or any craziness or anything like that. And he would come by and spend time with me, spend time with my mom. They still had they were still very, very fond of each other. There was still some love there. But, you know, didn't work out, whatever. But that was the only man who could come visit. She didn't have men coming in the house. And there were other men that I knew my mom, like she had this good friend that she used to go to dinner with from time to time, but he was never able to come to the house. She didn't allow it. She wanted me and my sister to always feel safe. And to this day, I thank her for that. So, yeah, I just, so when I talk about that war, that inner war for women, it's like, y'all even got to ask yourself, why do you have such a high tolerance to take all that shit from men? Like, why? What happened? Why did you get to this point? How are we at this point? And this is why I say that I think that women are the co-creators, if not the creators of patriarchy. Now, why they did it, I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think part of it is women got lazy. Um, war. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with that. And I know for me, my work is to unpack and get to the root of things. That's just who I am. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, it's no point in trying to dig that deep and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, but that's just me. That's what I do. I like to get to the root. Everything has an origin and a root to it. So that's what I like to get down to. Um, so, that's what we do in the container, 4-week container. I have one of my clients on here right now. um, and so, we get into that. We get down to the root. We get into your limiting beliefs, where those beliefs came from or how they were created. All of these limiting beliefs are created when we're little. As little girls, we're given this, like I said earlier, we're given this narrative. We're given a blueprint. right, from the people around us. And we're silenced early on as little girls. Um, we're told to shrink ourselves early on. All of these things take place in your childhood. It doesn't just show up as an adult. It takes place in your childhood. And then later on as an adult, it starts to dictate how you move, how you navigate life, and how you navigate relationships. So, um, yeah, so that's that's what we do in the container. It's 4 weeks. And we dive deep. Like I said, we get into the beliefs. Um, we get into the because I always say we take that it's about shadow integration within that container because your beliefs are stored within your shadow. And so we get to that. We get to the core essence of who you are. I had a client today, she had an amazing breakthrough um just by saying no. And I was like, that's one of the most beautiful things a woman can do is say no, right? So she had an amazing breakthrough and I'm really excited for her. And so the container right now is at a decreased price, but I will be raising my price back up next week. So if you gonna come, you better come now. And when you come out of the 4-week container, you come into the community that I'm creating at the discounted price. So I have some really, really exciting things coming up for you ladies. And yeah, I think that's it, y'all. I gotta go do some, domestic stuff. I gotta take the trash out. Trash coming tomorrow morning, so I gotta take the trash out. Um, so if anyone is interested in coming into the container, just DM me here or my links are in my bio. You can find me over there. Everything is on my stand store. And I think that's it. I will be back next Wednesday. Wednesday is my day to go live. So that's it, ladies. You all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And I will see y'all on Substack.